Welcome back. This is the Big Small Business Show. Now we hear about millennials, and some people even call them on the show millenniums. And what does anyone actually really know about them? What they like, what they dislike? It seems that there are so many mixed messages and conflicting feedback about this generation. Do I really have to change my business strategies to accommodate them? And what about my other clients? Joining me now in studio is George Bourdos, partner at VBN Consultants. Now, George recently attended a Millennial 2020 conference held in New York, so we trust he'll give us some insight. Welcome, George.
Thank you, Alon. Thanks for having me. Good to be back.
Right, so I'm one of those cynics around this a name called millennial or millennium or whatever you want to call them. And my view is that that over generations, young people have always been idealists and have held the opposite values of what society has held at the time. So, many years ago, if everyone was at war, if the Vietnam War, then the youth wanted peace. If now it's about maybe it's about inequality, they want equality, etc., etc. And every generation has a whole bunch of young people who are in society, who are getting a voice, and then we have to label them. And sometimes we call them the baby boomers, and sometimes we call them millennials or millenniums. What's your view?
Well, Alon, I have to agree with you because one, there are definitely lots of case studies, research being done. Everyone's got their opinion. I mean, they can't even really decide on the exact age of them. Some people say 23 to 30. Some people say 23 to 34. At the conference, the general theme was 23 to 34. But what I believe in, obviously, yes, you're right. The youngsters of any generation have always been the rebels, let's put it that way. But I think what we have to be mindful, and it's not saying that you must only target this generation because you're right, they're not the only customers. But this is a very influential customer in terms of influence the spending habits of their parents, say, especially the younger ones that are still living at home. They're influencing the buy or where the family goes to eat. And their whole big rush towards technology, especially mobile, we can't ignore that they're changing the way brands need to think in terms of reaching this market. Gone are the days where it's just good enough to have TV and radio. You need the whole online aspect. Your website has to now not only be accessible from a desktop, but also from a tablet or a mobile. And as soon as it's not accessible to them, they're going to shut you out. So, and I think we have to be mindful of them, but not so much. What's the word? Focus. Yes. So not only focus on that. We have to look at the broader picture at all times, but also be mindful of this generation, and then obviously the future generation to come. But at the same time, not making it the main focus or the main priority of the business.
Okay, and I don't want to be too argumentative now, yes, because I also, to your point, I agree that they're a massive influence. But I think many parts of our society influence. For example, you could argue that I influence what the eating habits of my children as well. So, people in their late 40s, early 50s have huge influence on what children eat. You could argue it in that way, yes, too. Yes. And I recently traveled overseas, and I was sitting at these restaurants, and overseas there's a big cafe society, and there was something very interesting I noted, is all the young people in the age group that you would call millennials were all on their phones. Male and a female were sitting across the table, and sometimes a whole group of guys or women, and they're all sitting on their phones. And then there was a whole gap from about 30 to about maybe 55, 60, where everyone was talking. And then the older people, the people in their 60s, were like husband and wife sitting at a magnificent restaurant, both on their phones. So I also noticed that. Is there something also about, I don't know what you call those people? Older than baby boomers. Yeah.
I'm not sure what the exact generation definition is, but I think the whole world has embraced this technological age. And I think I like to call the millennials, not so much because they say the next generation, the Gen Zs, are true digital natives. So they, yes, grew up with the smartphone, with, yes, the iPad, or with the tablets. But I think in a lot of ways, I like to call the millennials digital adopters, because when they were youngsters, they didn't have cell phones. But as they grew up, they got a cell phone. The cell phones became smaller. The internet became faster. It became more accessible. We went from dial-up, and now we've got high-speed fiber optics. So I think they've adopted this technology, and they've grown up with it. So it's almost like a sibling to them. And I think
it's a nice way to put it.
Yeah, so they're the true digital adopters. And because they've grown up adapting to this technology, I think brands, they haven't grown with it as much as they have. And they expect brands to engage with them in the same way.
Now, you've got a great example around Nike.
Yes, there's a couple of things. I think we can both agree that with the economic climate at the moment worldwide, not only in South Africa, brands are struggling. And be doing the same old that you've been doing for so long isn't, it's not that it's not good enough. It's not that you don't have great products or services. It's the fact that the game is changing a bit, how we offer the product. And millennials are very experience-driven consumers. Yes, they are skeptical and they know what they want, but they also, and yes, they maybe don't have huge amounts of disposable income, but if they're going to spend money, they want to spend it on a share-worthy experience, a memorable experience. They don't just want to buy the product anymore. And Nike has come to the forefront of that. And I mean, yes, you'll probably say that it's only one store. It's in New York, downtown Manhattan, in Soho. And they've basically taken the customer journey from when the client, even before they walk into the store, up to the point of the after sales, and they've re-looked at every single touch point for that customer. And it's made it online, digital, human interaction. It's fascinating. Once you walk in the store, you're greeted by very friendly staff. Immediately, please log on to our free Wi-Fi in the store. You log on, you come to their homepage. It's got a whole lot of promotional stuff. And now the store's 4 floors. Obviously, it's a huge concept store. The first floor was just the equality campaign that they've been running in the States. All black and white, just equality everywhere. And it was a whole drive to say that equality should go further than the playing field. So a basketball court, there should be equality in everything. Then the second floor, they had a mini AstroTurf where you could actually, with a designated coach, you try on the soccer boots and you actually kick the ball around. You go another floor up, it's all customizable. You can print your own T-shirts, put whatever you want, South African flag. And then obviously the 4th floor was all around basketball. Again, half a basketball court with a coach in the store. You can actually shoot your hoops. I happened to buy a pair of trainers. They even asked me if I'd like them delivered to my hotel room. And I was looking at another pair of shoes. He says, you know what, you're here till the end of the week, think about it and just order it online and get it delivered to your hotel room. They can even deliver to South Africa now. They've changed their whole online ordering store. So they've gone from start to finish and they've relooked what does the customer want. It doesn't necessarily mean it's a millennial customer or it's an older generation customer, but they've taken all the technology available to them in terms of in-store digital, out of the store digital, online, and we've seen a lot of brands do this.
So we've got a minute left here. So just talking about now this millennial. So we spoke about now that they're big adopters, etc. Does that mean that they are going to expect this change all the time? Because if they've grown up with all this change, as soon as something doesn't change at a certain pace, it becomes boring, and then they look for the next big thing.
Unfortunately, I think that is the case because we've seen it a lot with in the food industry. People don't, the younger people especially, don't want to go to the chain stores, the big franchises anymore. As much as, yes, they're still a big part of their lives, they want to go to the new hot and happening bars, the new hot and thing. So what we've seen in Joburg at the moment with Bromfontein and Maboneng, they want the new experience. It's all experience driven. So it's not necessarily that they want to change, but they want an experience worth spending the money or worth going to or worth sharing and talking about.
George Bourdos, thanks so much for being on the show and maybe taking a chink out of my armor around my view around millennials. Thanks for being on the show.
Thank you very much. Pleasure to be here.
Okay.